What's going on, guys? I've had a little bit of time now to ruminate, to reflect, and think about Surface Duo 2, and I think I'm ready to give my first impressions here about this strange device, this sequel to Microsoft's Surface Duo. I think it's answered a lot of our questions. It's done a lot of things that we wanted it to do, maybe fallen short in some other ways. But with that being said, let's just jump into some hardware thoughts first off. So when you first pick this thing up, the first thing you're going to notice is that it is a little bit heavier than the original Surface Duo. In fact, if you weigh them, you're looking at about 284 grams versus about 248 or 49 grams on the original Surface Duo. It is definitely a little bit heavier. However, it is a little bit lighter than my Z Fold 2, which was actually closer to 300 grams. So for me, I'm not really all that bummed out about the additional weight because I was actually used to carrying something heavier than that anyways. But all in all, it feels really, really good. The first thing I notice is the additional thickness, because it is thicker than the original Surface Duo, albeit remaining extremely thin. It's still an extremely thin device. It's just an ever so small amount thicker than the original Surface Duo, which I think is actually a good thing for durability. But what they've done here to kind of accommodate around that additional thickness is actually really, really great. If you look at the edge of Surface Duo 2, you'll actually see that it curves onto the edge rather than just being a sharp end like it is on the original Surface Duo. Kind of doubt this is something you're going to be able to see, but perhaps you can there on that corner see that it does sort of chamfer on that edge, and that makes it feel much better in the hand as well as in the pocket. The hinge feels as good as it ever did. It might actually even be stiffer than it was before, although that might have just been over time some degradation of the stiffness on my original Surface Duo. It's been a year of opening and closing. It may have gotten softer over time, but the hinge still does feel amazing. Obviously, we've moved the USB-C port to the center instead of being kind of in this weird spot off to the side. I think that's probably a good thing as well for durability. Things do seem thicker in center, and it might help a little bit too. We've gone away from having a separate fingerprint scanner. It is now built into the power button there, which works very, very well. And I'll get into kind of that functionality here shortly because it's very, very good. Overall, I think that the thing looks really good, despite the fact that there's a big camera bump, which a lot of you absolutely despise. I'm not nearly so bothered by it. And in fact, when you open the thing up, a lot of people really, don't like the gap in between. I personally think, let's do this here. Listen very closely to the sound it makes when it closes. First off, it's a nice, satisfying clunk. It's magnetic. As you get close, it just kind of pulls itself in the rest of the way. And yeah, look, you do have a gap. There is a gap there where the camera is, but it doesn't really bother me all that much at all, holding it like this. If anything, it almost feels like it's giving me a little bit to hold on to. And then if I want to open it back up, I can just kind of slide my finger in there to open it up the rest of the way. So I'm really not bothered by this. Now, this may be something that drives you crazy, but for me, using Surface Duo 2 in phone mode feels pretty good. I'm honestly not bothered by this at all. Now, for those who are wondering, yeah, when you have it laying like this, laying flat, it's going to have a wobble to it when you're sitting on a table. But, when you're in laptop mode, people ask, does it tip over now because the bump is so heavy? No, not really. It will eventually, but you've got to have it opened up pretty far before it's going to tip over or anything. So laptop mode, I think, is going to be okay. And most of the time in laptop mode, you're going to be holding it like this. And then tint mode, obviously, is unaffected by the bump. So I think it's an aesthetic problem much more than it is an actual physical, practical problem. Although there are some issues, I think it's mostly down to aesthetics. For those that have wondered, yeah, you can kind of pinch it closed. There is some give to it. There's some flex to it. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think it's going to shatter from doing that. Maybe I'll be wrong, but it seems like it's probably going to be fine. The old one could flex a bit too if you did the same thing. So not a huge concern for me there. Going around to the inside, you do have two slightly larger screens. Now, these guys are 90 hertz, which means that scrolling around in them is going to be much, much nicer than it is on the original Duo. And the 90 hertz refresh rate looks great immediately. It is extremely noticeable just in the launcher itself. Very, very good stuff. Of course, they've shrunk the bezels a little bit as well, which means that each display does look slightly taller than it did before, and they are ever so slightly more narrow. Just a small amount, but it is definitely more narrow. All in all, I think the screens are very, very good. I do wish they were a little bit brighter for outdoors, but all in all, very good screens. So no real shocker here on the hardware front. The hardware is really good. I really like the hardware. It seems like they've addressed the things that there were problems with. It was fragile, so they've made the thing thicker. It is now Victus glass on the inside, which is the hardest glass that Corning makes for these sorts of devices. They added the cameras, which I have already done a comparison with to the original Surface Duo. Be sure to check that out because the camera is a big improvement over what we had last time, and it appears that they've addressed the USB-C port by at least moving it and thickening up the actual plastic here around the edges. If you actually look up at where the hinge is, you can see a bit more of that plastic rail, and it does appear to be thicker to my eye than it was before. So they've addressed pretty much everything we had problems with here, right? They made the screens high refresh, they made them a bit taller, a bit bigger to help with that super wide aspect ratio without getting rid of the wide aspect ratio. They've made things a bit more durable. They've added the camera. What more could you really want as far as the hardware goes? It's very good. But at this point, we have to talk about the software, and it seems like that's always the problem with Surface Duo. The hardware was always pretty good. It's the software that always holds things back. And there's some good here, and there's some bad here. So on the good side, things like this. Look how quickly the screen comes on. Look how quickly this thing wakes up when you open it. Okay, that's not bad, right? Now, I know that the original Surface Duo would sometimes be about that fast, but sometimes it would be way, 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 way slower than that. And it seems to me that every time so far that I've opened up Surface Duo 2, it's been about a second, slightly less than a second from opening to seeing my lock screen there. And then to take things a step further, from actually opening the thing up and unlocking it, it is way faster than the original Surface Duo. Let's see if I can do this in a way where you're going to be able to see it. Try it this way. We're going to open it up, and we're going to hit fingerprint button. That's very, very fast. And on the original, that's pretty similar to there. But now let's actually hit the fingerprint scanner. And it's not, look, it's not horribly slow there, but it is definitely faster on Surface Duo 2. But more than that, more than just the speed, it's the consistency. It's fast every time. I've heard people say to me, well, my Surface Duo unlocks faster than yours, and mine unlocks faster than mine too sometimes, and sometimes it's horribly slow. So far, about a day's worth of Surface Duo 2 tells me that every time I hit that power button, every time I open it up, it's really fast every single time, and that takes a load off of me. It gets really annoying to have to hit that fingerprint scanner and wonder, did it take it? Did it misread it? Did it read it? Am I just waiting on something? I don't know what's happening. It's weird, and it frustrates me over time. So now let's open this thing up. Let's plug it into the capture card, and I will just start showing you some of the software here firsthand. So I've had some time, obviously, to set up my home screen and get things the way I like it. And honestly, Microsoft Launcher is exactly like it is on Surface Duo 1. All this talk and speculation about how we were going to get your custom icons and all the features from normal Microsoft Launcher. Well, at launch, that hasn't happened. The only thing that's different is the appearance of the little news feed, that little bar there to the side. It does look different than it does on the original. I'll show you the comparison here on this screen. You can see it does look a bit different as I scroll through here. I don't want to scroll and show you any of my sensitive data, but it does look a bit better. But other than that, it's pretty much the exact same Microsoft Launcher experience that we had before. In fact, there is a screenshot of the settings for Microsoft Launcher in case you were wondering. Go look at the original Duo. I think it's exactly the same. There's nothing new, no icons, nothing good at all. Another weird quirk here as well is that when you open up an app, you'll notice there's no animation. The app just pops into existence. Now, when you go home, there is obviously an animation there, but not when it opens up. It just pops into existence. It's just weird. It feels very janky and strange. I do have to think that is a bug of some kind, although who knows? It's Microsoft. They do weird things. It just does seem strange, and it feels odd. Sticking with things that make the software experience feel a little lackluster is something we're used to here on Surface Duo. It's swiping from any side, up, down, or from going back. Just feels a little hit or miss. Sometimes I go home and it works really well and everything's totally fine. But right there, I just missed twice in a row. I tried to swipe up to go home and nothing happened. That worked. That worked. That worked. I got 3 in a row, but I missed 2 in the middle of that where I'm swiping up to go home and it just isn't responding. Sometimes I go to pull down my notification shade and instead nothing happened there. Got it there. Got it there. Nothing happened there. There's just weird inconsistencies with this stuff. And this is stuff we've dealt with on the original Surface Duo. And I had speculated that it was because they were using kind of a crappy digitizer, a digitizer that was meant for a Windows device with ported over drivers, and that would be fixed here on Surface Duo 2. Yet here we are with the same sorts of things happening that makes the thing just feel janky and inconsistent. Now, one place I'm not seeing this, strangely enough, is in typing. Typing is actually like, pressing on the screen, not swiping off from the side, but actual key presses seem to be working very, very well. In fact, I've typed long bits of things testing it, and I'm not having any problems typing at all. So that seems to be better, which makes the problem with swiping up or down even more strange and curious to me, and I can't really explain it. How on earth it still is at this state, I just don't understand. All in all, I do think that Surface Duo 2 is closer. It's a better device than the original Surface Duo as far as I can tell. The hardware feels better. The hardware feels improved. The camera is a mile better. Again, check out that video if you want to see that. Things are quicker. Things are smoother. Things are faster. But then there are these weird little things, these weird little problems that are getting in the way. And while some people have reported full-on crashes already, I've not experienced that. I have seen a few bugs already, and that's not great. I don't know how this is still a thing. I'll show you this first one. It's something that we've seen on the original Surface Duo, right? Whenever you're using Duo, those icons at the bottom are supposed to stay spread out, right? You're supposed to have 3 over here, 3 over here. When you go into phone mode, they all slide over to one side. Well, I'm in book mode, and they've not readjusted, okay? Not the end of the world, just annoying. It's like, how is this still happening? Or how about this one? I unlocked it earlier and just nothing loaded. It was just my wallpaper. I had nothing on there at all. This one actually had to fully reboot to fix. There may have been something I could have done. I tried opening and closing. I tried book mode or phone mode. It just didn't care. I had to reboot the thing. Luckily, it reboots pretty fast now, but that's, again, not the end of the world, but really annoying. So, you total these things up, and here's what you have. You have inconsistent swiping up and down for home and for notifications, and you have the same old bugs with the home screen with Microsoft Launcher that we've had for a year. And I think what makes all this so frustrating is how much better other things are, how good this thing feels, how much better the camera is, how much faster it is from moment to moment. Makes these small problems really, really irritating. Do I think that they're the end of the world? Not yet, but let's wait until I've had a week or so to do a full review. Maybe they start wearing on me, maybe they start piling up. I don't really want to say yes or no just yet because this is just a first impression. It's only been about a day. Right now, I would tell you no, they're not deal breakers. They're annoying, but when you factor in how everything else, how much better it is, I wouldn't call it a deal breaker just yet. But again, let's wait for the full review. Let's wait for more time for me to really make that declaration. So guys, like always with Microsoft, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's kind of what this feels like in my first impression. I'd love to know if you've bought Duo 2. Are you feeling something similar? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for making it to the end of today's video because that does help out the algorithm a ton. If you've decided to click join down below and become a member, thank you deeply for that as well. That does help me tremendously. Stay tuned for more coverage just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.